Well, hello everyone, my name is Jikami, and we just wrapped up weekend number 1 and we are heading into weekend number 2 for the Battlefield 6 open beta. And I don't want to jump the gun too much, but oh boys, we might finally be back. After enduring the absolute travesty known as 2042, many who once loved the Battlefield franchise really thought it just might be the end for one of gaming's premier shooter franchises. But Battlefield 6, for many fans, has successfully restored faith that there might still be some ammo left in the magazine for EA's grand combined arms shooter. Now this was just a beta, with 4 maps and a limited selection of vehicles, weapons, and gadgets. But it's a good little appetizer if the full game's content can continue to carry that momentum once October 10th rolls around. And the numbers definitely don't lie, with the beta pulling over 500,000 peak players just for Steam alone in weekend 1, which doesn't even take into account those on the EA launcher or the consoles. Just to put that achievement in context, 2042 achieved a little over 100,000 players over the course of its entire life cycle. Battlefield, probably for the first time since Battlefield 3, is actually giving COD numbers a run for their money. In other words, oh boy, it is heating up out here. I think I echo what many who have been playing this franchise for a long time are also saying. The main positive for Battlefield 6 is just how it brings back that old school feel. And by old school, I mean Battlefield 3 and 4. Calm down, Grandpa, we ain't going back to 1942. Sure, Battlefield 6 has many of the niceties of modern shooters like sliding, reloading while you're aimed down sights, and even the return of crouch running from Battlefield 5. But the actual feeling of the game is drenched in that early to mid 2010s era that Battlefield just sorta lost over time. And unlike 2042, most of the classic Battlefield staples have returned, like first-person takedown animations, traditional classes, what a novel concept, and what is this? A scoreboard? Woo! Yeah, baby! I know it's a little sad to be praising a game studio for simply returning to what we had in the past, but look, when it comes to EA and DICE, getting them to actually listen to what the community wants can be quite the breakthrough.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Also, can we just take a moment to legitimately praise DICE for the level of optimization achieved with a game that looks this damn good? I've seen people testing graphics cards that released back when Battlefield 1 was the newest game, and it runs surprisingly well. I've even seen testimonies that some mad lad got the game to run decently well on a GTX 660. That card came out in 2012. Dear God, I don't know why anyone would still be stuck with such an ancient card in the big 2025, but Godspeed, soldier, for somehow making it work. It sucks that we need to praise a game for running well, but when we constantly get inundated with Unreal Engine 5 slop that can barely hold 60 frames per second on top-end hardware, we gotta give some credit where credit is due. Frostbite is putting in the work. Also, thank you EA for ditching the 8th generation of consoles. Like, shout out to PS4 players in 2025. You motherfuckers are clinging on for dear life at this point. I could try to lay out an entire novel of word salad to why Battlefield 6 feels good to play. But the long and short of it is that Battlefield 6 just feels right. A good balance of twitchy goodness that all the cracked out gamers can get on board with, but still having that little bit of weightiness that Battlefield has always had in its movement and gunplay. Now, of course, like any Battlefield game, not everything is perfect. The series has never really been known for being the most polished of products, at least not at launch. I've been experiencing the usual netcode related issues such as being killed behind cover, shots not registering, and the usual RPG dusting off of vehicles. All of this is just typical Battlefield affair, so no use in dwelling on it. Hopefully, the netcode issues can be tidied up by the full release though. Now, one gripe that I had whilst playing, and I admit many might disagree with me on this, was the double-edged sword of Battlefield 6's new tactical destruction. Now obviously the destruction in Battlefield 6 is a dramatic increase to that of 2042. Don't get it twisted. More destruction is not necessarily a bad thing on the surface. This is Battlefield we're talking about. But I quickly noticed that on maps such as Gibraltar and Cairo, that reliable cover becomes extremely ropey as the match progresses. This was one of the issues that the original Bad Company 2 had back in the days. If you take the rose-tinted glasses off for just a second, Bad Company 2 was championed for its level of destruction. But the issue was that many maps became nothing but rubble by the time that the end screen appeared. That's cool for the spectacle, but gameplay-wise, it created a whole lot of frustration. Some of Cairo's conquest points become an absolute clusterfuck, as nearly every wall of the buildings are torn down, leaving very little places to hunker down. And admittedly, some of the frustration could be attributed to the actual map design itself, but the destruction definitely isn't helping that. Once again, this is more of a personal gripe that me and my friends had during the beta. It could be just us, but I'm mentioning it regardless. In contrast, something I've seen multiple people bring up is the UI. Somehow, entry after entry, DICE struggles to get that UI right. There's a lot of clutter, and there's far too many clicks needed to access features such as weapon customization. Design-wise, the UI is fantastic. It has that very Battlefield 4 inspired look. But unfortunately, the layout could really use some work. Also, why isn't there a compass at the top of the screen by default? I can't tell you how many times I was trying to deliver callouts to my squad and struggling because I couldn't give them an exact direction to turn towards. I later found out that it was hidden by default under the graphics menu. But I can't think of a good reason why they chose to hide such an important tool for coordinated gameplay. Please enable that by default, that would be much appreciated. I'm also not a fan of DICE's decision to keep the weapons class agnostic. I plan to make a separate video about that separately, so I won't hark on it too long here. But I really think that Battlefield is better when weapons are class restricted. They do have a separate playlist for class-locked weapons, but something tells me that splitting up the player base into separate modes is probably not a good idea in the long term as the player numbers naturally begin to fall off. Really, DICE just needs to choose one or the other, hopefully class-locked, but trying to do both, to me, is just not the move. Look, this is just the first impressions. So I don't want to go on and on about things that are very much likely subject to change in a little less than 2 months until we get the full release. But overall, Battlefield 6 is looking like a return to form for the franchise. 2042 really seemed like the beginning of the end for one of my all-time favorite multiplayer games. But in a weird way, maybe it was the kick in the teeth that EA and DICE needed to course correct before the franchise ended up at a point of no return. It seems like the publisher and developers are, mostly, listening to what the community is telling them, and they're trying their damnedest to deliver this time around. And with Call of Duty repeatedly stumbling over themselves with lackluster releases and their ongoing identity crisis, now is a better time than ever for Battlefield to come in swinging. By the time this video releases, we should most likely be in weekend 2 for the beta. And let me tell you, I'm very excited to jump back in and put more time into the game, as long as I don't run into these flick aim gamers I've been seeing on Twitter.
Wow, I flicked straight at that guy through the wall. Oopsie.
But alright boys, that's all I got to say. Post your comments down below. What do you think about the Battlefield 6 beta? Has this given you a little bit of confidence? Do you plan to buy? Or are you still a little bit apprehensive about Battlefield 6? Post all your thoughts down below. Also be sure to like the video, subscribe to my channel, come catch me live when I go live, and I'll catch you guys in a future video.